That's pretty fucking weird. Yeah, so I guess I don't know. For some reason, my chat to my stream is disconnected. Um, hmm. I've never actually had this issue before. Don't know exactly what to do. I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. So I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try. What I want to do uh, is get this canvas toned today and try to maybe finish that other painting today or tomorrow. Hmm. Pretty strange. I'm wondering if this is just a PlayStation issue. I'm gonna go grab a drink. I might actually get this game, yeah. That's PUBG. I think it's free on Xbox One.
In our recent video,
I have an Xbox One and I don't have a reason to play it. So I think I might get PUBG just to play my Xbox. I really have no idea why this shit isn't. Somebody sending. What?
In our recent video on the top 7 underwater cities, we covered the litany of mysterious buildings and structures which have been reclaimed by Earth's oceans. But the constructs of man are pretty much the least fascinating thing you'll find lurking within the ocean. And over time, a great many mysterious things have taken place beneath the waves which we still don't understand. Sightings of gigantic creatures, missing submarines, and unexplained sounds from oceans and lakes around the world are just some of the entries in our list of the top 7 underwater mysteries. Number 7. The Vile Vortices. Ivan Terence Sanderson was a Scottish biologist who first coined the term vile vortex to describe areas of unusual phenomena found around the world. He claimed there were 12 such areas, and barring the few on land in Asia, Africa, and Antarctica, most of these areas can be found out at sea, with the most famous being the Bermuda Triangle. Others include the South Atlantic Anomaly, the Devil's Sea, and several parts of the Pacific, each responsible for the random disappearance of many ships and sea vessels. Strangely, 5 of these areas lie on the same latitude south of the equator, and 5 more on 1 latitude to the north, with the other 2 located at the north and south poles. This has led some to blame some kind of electromagnetic force, or perhaps even the ley line phenomena. But whether you believe there's a scientific explanation for these vortices, or you think it's all a bunch of pseudoscience made up to sell a few books, you can't deny that if you saw your plane's flight path heading through one of these zones, you might order up a few double whiskeys just to calm your nerves. Number 6. The Missing Subs. Right now, the only people playing Hide the Sub is Jared from Subway and his cellmates. But in 1968, someone or something caused not 1, not 2, but 4 submarines to randomly disappear around the world. The first was INS Dakar, an Israeli sub which disappeared around January 25th and whose wreckage wasn't discovered until 1999. Next up was the French sub Minerve, which sank 2 days later on the 27th. The wreckage of this sub was never found. But curiously, both were operating within the Mediterranean Sea at the time. The Soviet K-129 was the next to go down on March 8th, and when the USS Scorpion went missing 3 months later in a possible revenge attack, it led to the speculation that secret submarine battles between these nations were in danger of heating up the Cold War. Subs from all sides were known to trail each other, and occasionally an incident would take place. This seems to be confirmed by a conversation between Russian Admiral Peter Novojusev and U.S. Navy Captain Peter Hitchhouston in 1987, where Novojusev remarked, "Captain, you are young and inexperienced, but you will learn there were some matters that both nations have agreed to not discuss, and one of these is the reasons we lost K-129. At 5, underwater Stonehenge. Stonehenge is one of the most famous historical monuments in the world, but it is far from the only random arrangement of old-timey stones humanity has uncovered. We've seen similar sites across Europe, Asia, Africa, and America, but none of these were ever discovered underwater. In 2007, a sonar survey conducted at the bottom of Lake Michigan found a number of stones placed in a circle nearly 40 feet below sea level. Now, obviously, we're not suggesting cavemen frogmen did this, but when this area of Michigan was dry land thousands of years ago, it seems that the people of the time were pretty knowledgeable about extinct species, because carved on one of these 9,000-year-old stones was the image of a mastodon, the last of which died more than 10,000 years ago. Unless you count the robot mastodon the Black Power Ranger drives, which we don't. Number 4. Unexplained sea sounds. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration constantly monitor for unique sounds emanating from the ocean. They pick up all sorts of strange and weird noises every day. Yet whilst most can be explained, the origin of some have never been determined. One such sound is this, the upsweep.
What the
Recorded
fuck
in
is that?
1991, it can be heard throughout the Pacific Ocean. We know the coordinates of where it comes from, but we still don't know what causes it. Then there's the whistle. Also heard in the Pacific, but whose coordinates we cannot determine. The most mysterious is the bloop, which was so loud it was detected by two different monitoring stations over 5,000 kilometers apart. Some believe it was caused by a glacier falling into the ocean, but others are convinced it came from an as yet unidentified colossal ocean creature. Perhaps our next entry is responsible. Number 3, Leptocephalus gigantus.
What?
With a name like that, you know this thing isn't going to be small. Leptocephalus gigantus is an eel species of which only 2 have ever been observed. And on both occasions, they were undeveloped larvae. The first sighting was in 1930 off the coast of South Africa, when Danish scientist Anton Bruun captured a 6-foot specimen. He recognized it as the larvae of Leptocephalus, who are typically around 1/30th of the adult size, which means, if fully matured, it could have grown to over 180 feet. This discovery may go some way to explaining what the men of the Daedalus ship encountered in 1848. Whilst also traversing the waters around South Africa, the crew reported seeing a huge lizard-like sea serpent, an incident which followed a similar sighting off the coast of England 30 years earlier. Oh, and if any New Yorkers are sat here thinking, sucks to be English or South African right now, I got news for you, buddy. The second confirmed sighting was just off the coast of New York in 1963, and the researcher who saw it, Dr. Lionel Walford, described it as
a transparent sea monster. It looked so much like jelly. I could see no bones and no eyes, nose, or mouth, but there it was, undulating along, looking as if it almost was made of fluid glass.
That doesn't sound like something you want to meet while wearing a pair of Speedos, but trust me, it's got nothing on the creatures in our next entry. Number 2, the giant everything. There are countless examples of marine biologists estimating the size of an ocean-dwelling creature, only to encounter one far larger than anyone thought possible. One such event occurred in Japan's Suruga Bay, where Japanese scientists detected a huge 30-foot shark, leading some to wonder whether the prehistoric megalodon, which measured up to 59 feet, could still be lurking somewhere at the bottom of the ocean today. So, we've got ourselves a mega shark. Now, where's our giant octopus? Oh, here you go! This colossal squid captured in 2007 measured 13 feet and weighed nearly half a ton. Not big enough. Okay, try this one on for size. In July 2012, whilst submerged at a depth of over 2,000 feet, 3 Japanese scientists filmed this 26-foot monster, which also had 2 tentacles missing. What kind of creature messes with a 26-foot squid? Probably a 40-foot squid, like the one Russian sailors tried to capture in 2015. But the real mystery doesn't concern the creatures we've already witnessed. It's those which we have yet to meet. By examining the beaks of digested squid found inside sperm whales, and also measuring the sucker scars on whales which have been attacked, it is estimated that the largest colossal squid out there could be anything up to 70 feet in length. Number 1, Lake Baikal. Southern Siberia's Lake Baikal is the largest freshwater lake in the world. And not only is it incredibly ancient, clocking in at 25 to 30 million years old, but the lake and surrounding area also contains a rich biodiversity of over 1,000 plant species and 2,500 animal species, of which 80% exist nowhere else in the world. Furthermore, in Russian folklore, Baikal is known as a mysterious site of many strange occurrences, including disappearing boats, random flashing lights in the sky, and unexplained lights from the deep. In 1977, 2 men named Alexandrov and Soliverstov traveled inside a submersible to a depth of 1,200 meters inside Lake Baikal. And after turning off their spotlights, They were suddenly bathed in an unusual glow. The lights lasted for 2 minutes before extinguishing, with nobody able to explain where they came from. And if that wasn't enough, there are many ancient petroglyphs found around the area from between the 3rd and 9th centuries BC, which depict strange lizard creatures with forked tongues and armor, along with mysterious human-like beings wearing what seem to be helmets. Add that to the fact that the as-yet unexplained magnetic anomaly which has been detected within tectonic plates beneath the lake, and that this anomaly has doubled in size over the last half-century, and you've got to wonder why Lake Baikal doesn't market itself as the world's #1 hotspot for paranormal tourism. I'd certainly pay it a visit. Would you? So those were our top 7 underwater mysteries. If you're still wearing your swimming shorts, why not stay in the water and watch our video on the 7 secret underwater structures in cities?
To the casual eye, it may look like nothing more than a sleepy little fishing village, typical of those found throughout the Caribbean. But Port Royal is different. Beneath its waters lies a unique time capsule, a sunken city more than 300 years old.
Port Royal is the most important underwater archaeological site in the Western Hemisphere. There's more history and archaeology down there than 50 or 100 shipwrecks all combined.
The history of Port Royal's sunken city, its legendary rise, its catastrophic fall, and promising rebirth, begins in the middle of the 17th century, when European nations fought over possession of land in the New World.
It's hard to underestimate the importance of the Caribbean in that period. The Caribbean was the Wild West for Europe. It was the frontier. And the pirates and the privateers, the buccaneers, they were the vanguard of the expansionist countries and responsible for achieving nationalist aims and also for a lot of the immigration.
If the Caribbean was Europe's Wild West, then Port Royal was its Dodge City, a boom town full of pirates, prostitutes, and purveyors, and where silver and gold were as plentiful as rum. Its rapid growth began just after England seized Jamaica from Spain.
Spain was wealthy but weak, and England and the other European powers wanted their share of the New World riches. And Jamaica was in a wonderful location, and Port Royal an even better one, on the south side of the island, with a wonderful sweeping quay that formed a natural harbor that could easily hold 500 ships.
Nearly everyone, it seems, in Port Royal was a pirate at one time or another. Protecting the island in exchange for plunder was too good an offer to refuse.
Being a pirate was a very opportunistic way of making a living. People would do it off and on, and so it wasn't that you was a pirate exclusively. You might be working in a tavern in Port Royal, and then one of the merchants is fronting the money for an individual, and they're going to go off on a raiding one of the coastal Spanish towns, and so you would go with them. But then when you came back, well, you would just go back to your normal job. So it was an occupation that people crisscrossed back and forth out all the time.
Commodore Christopher Mings, a British naval officer and a privateer, brought in Port Royal's first Great Haul. More than 20 chests filled with silver coins and gems worth £500,000. His tactics earned him the nickname El Diablo, the devil from the Spaniards. These hand grenades help explain why. Mings and his successors used them as part of their arsenal to terrorize Spanish vessels carrying trade goods from Europe and the Orient. The iron balls filled with gunpowder were lit with a fuse, then tossed onto the deck of a galleon. The explosion caused death and injury. Or treasury of the West Indies is always like a continual mart or fair, where all sorts of choice merchandises are daily imported. As this salvaged Japanese sword suggests, the markets of Port Royal were a cornucopia of plunder and contraband, a place where anything, from Oriental objects of art to African slaves, could be had for a price.
Any of the material that was coming in through pirates into Port Royal within 2 or 3 days was now in the hands of the merchants. And so it's the mercantile industry of Port Royal that actually made it the wealthiest English town in the New World.
Port Royal was also the most populous English town in the New World. Bigger than Boston, it boasted a population of between 6,000 and 8,000 people. A brass menorah recovered from a sunken synagogue reflects their diversity. At a time when the British colonies of North America were largely single-faith enclaves, Port Royal supported Jewish, Quaker, Catholic, and Anglican houses of worship. The local clergy's faith, however, was sorely tested. 1 out of every 4 buildings in town was either a brothel or a tavern, prompting one reverend to condemn Port Royal as the most wicked and sinful place on earth. The pirates' decadent ways were indeed legendary. When they returned from their adventures, they were only too eager to blow their booty, indulging their every vice. According to an early history of Jamaica, wine and women drained them of their wealth to such a degree that in little time, some of them were reduced to beggary. Port Royal's most celebrated prostitute, Mary Carlton, was likened to a barber's chair. No sooner was one out than another was in. The governor of Port Royal commented that the Spaniards wondered much at the sickness of our people, until they knew the strength of our drinks, but then wondered more that they were not all dead.
Port Royal, the wicked city, was noted for its drinking, debauchery, gambling, etc. And of course, these guys imbibed from morning to night. And a lot of guys made their own drinks, especially the rum, which was called Kill Devil's rum. And a lot of times it was mixed with gunpowder. And in the house of a David Owens that we worked in, we found his still. This was used for making rum. Of course, it was heated under here, and stuff was distilled and put in onion bottles like you see here, so named because of the shape. And in this particular house, we found several hundred of these onion bottles. A lot of them were still sealed. We had used hypodermic needles and got an idea what the contents were. And these guys didn't mess around just with drinking with little small glasses or jiggers. They used big things like you see here. This is a German beer stein made of stoneware, or you could call it a tankard. It's actually a shape of a tankard. Some people call them flagons. And so you can imagine, it would take 2 of these bottles just to fill one of these. And when a guy was drunk or came back from a new sortie where he captured a whole bunch of treasure, they'd go down with barrels, running down the street with barrels, and insist everybody had to take a drink. And they filled this thing to the brim and said, chug a lug. And could you imagine drinking that much run? You just pass out and fall in bippy. So those were the great days to live. Too bad I couldn't have been there myself.
If there was one man who personified Port Royal's raucous social scene, he was Henry Morgan, pirate extraordinaire. He didn't just raid ships, he invaded countries. His exploits, more than anyone else's, would give Port Royal its mythic aura. Of all the pirates who made their base in Port Royal, none was more famous than Henry Morgan. He had come to Jamaica from Wales as an indentured servant, but soon took up freebooting. His exploits on the high seas made him the most celebrated and feared pirate of the 17th century.
He's separated from other pirates because he was a brilliant tactician. He was courageous, many of them are, but in spite of the fact that he often had fallings out with the men of his company, he was incredibly successful.
Morgan's expeditions rivaled those of any nation's army of the period. His most ambitious raid took place in 1670, when his force of 2,000 buccaneers invaded Panama City, the main depository of Spanish gold and silver on Central America's Pacific coast.
They made an incredible trek through the jungle. They didn't take any stores with them. They counted on finding food. They didn't. They almost starved to death. The men were actually cutting up their shoes and boiling the shoe leather and their pieces of their leather pouches to eat.
When Morgan's force finally arrived in Panama City, a desperate battle ensued, in which fleeing Spanish soldiers burned the city down and loaded its treasures onto departing ships. Once in control, Morgan's men tortured residents until they revealed where they had hidden their valuables. The booty piled up quickly: silver plate, gold ingots, and 750,000 pieces of eight.
When they got back to the Caribbean coast, again at great cost to life, men dropping of disease and jungle fever, there was a falling out. After all that effort, there were only 200 pieces of eight per man. When Morgan sailed off ahead of some of the men, they felt that he had skimmed off the best for himself.
The men may have been referring to these pieces. Rarely put on public view, they are known as Morgan's silver, believed to be the only known plunder remaining from the raid on Panama City. Upon his return to Port Royal, Morgan was hailed as a conquering hero, but King Charles was not pleased. England was now at peace with Spain. The Spanish king threatened to declare war if those who destroyed Panama City went unpunished. In response, King Charles imprisoned the colonial governor who approved Morgan's venture. But a different fate awaited the popular pirate.
The British Crown really needed to get rid of the pirates at this point because they were developing their own commercial, viable colonies, and the pirates were becoming an embarrassment. And so what a better way to catch pirates than to set a pirate to do it?
The king knighted Morgan and appointed him lieutenant governor of Jamaica. By day, he sat in judgment of his fellow buccaneers, but at night, he secretly arranged for them to continue their trade for a price. But it was Sir Henry who ultimately paid it.
It must have been extremely difficult for Morgan to have been the buccaneer par excellence and then have to sit in judgment on petty pirates and buccaneers. And he sank into debauchery and drunkenness and was a kind of a shambling old mess at the end. But this is the story of piracy, and it's certainly the story of Port Royal, which was brash and bright for a while and then was extinguished.
Morgan died a bitter, broken alcoholic in 1688. A short poem mourned the passage of the man and his times. You was a flyer, Morgan. You was the lad to crowd when you was in your flagship. But now you're in your shroud. Morgan's era was over, but Port Royal continued to thrive into the early 1690s as a pirate haven.
Sometimes were as many as 150 buccaneer pirate ships right in here, and of all different nationalities. I mean, we're talking about people who were plundering in the Red Sea, plundering off of Madagascar, all around the world. They all came here.
But the boom could have gone bust at any moment, not from sudden political changes, but rather from geological shifts. Port Royal was precariously situated on a thin spit of land at the tip of the Palisados Peninsula.
It's unconsolidated sand with the water table of 1 foot to 2 feet beneath it. And so they build this town up on it, and you can't dig foundations for the houses because you hit the water table too quickly.
No, I'm a
As a result,
I just want
Port Royal
to
has always been vulnerable to natural disasters.
outline it first.
Just how much can be seen in this structure.
So that when you
the
start
Giddy
toning
House.
it, you don't
It tipped over in an
fuck up
earthquake
the
in
pencil.
1907 and got its name from the sense of disorientation it induces in those who enter. It's nothing, however, compared to what Port Royal experienced back in June 1692.
The denizens of Port Royal were no strangers to catastrophe. They were frequently beset by hurricanes. They'd had an earthquake 4 years earlier, a minor one. But the morning of June 7th was frightening to those few people who were up really early and saw that the sea was strangely glassy. As the morning wore on, it was terribly sultry. The air was very heavy. And the sky turned a brassy color shortly before noon. There was an absolutely apocalyptic event.
In many places, recounted a survivor, the earth cracked, opened, and shut with a motion quick and fast, and of these openings 200 or 300 might be seen at a time. In some of these, people were swallowed up. In others, they were caught in the middle and pressed to death. And in others, the heads only appeared, in which condition the dogs came and ate them.
Here you have 2,000 buildings, and all but about 160 slid into the sea in a matter of seconds, because there were also 3 tidal waves, and almost all the shipping in the harbor got all creaked up and thrown on top of the buildings. And it's really scary. It's like some of these Hollywood movies, but this actually happened to these people.
Perhaps the most compelling account of the earthquake is etched on the headstone of Louis Galdi in the graveyard of St. Peter's Church. He was swallowed up in the great earthquake, by another shock thrown into the sea, and miraculously saved by swimming until a boat took him up. Galdi was one of the few to survive. He went on to become a church warden. The fate of his fellow citizens must have given him cause for prayer. 2,000 people,
holy
about
shit,
a third
God, you
of Port
saved me.
Royal's population,
God,
died
preach this
immediately
shit.
in the disaster. Approximately the same number perished in the following weeks from diseases caused by the rotting of unburied corpses. The town itself was devastated. 33 acres, nearly 2/3 of Port Royal, collapsed into the sea. Gone was everything from 5 of the island's 6 forts to Henry Morgan's grave. Even in its decimated state, Port Royal's notorious reputation survived. Looters roamed the streets, cutting off the fingers of the dead to more easily pilfer their rings. Others dove into the water, recovering what they could from the rubble below. Clergymen preached this catastrophe of biblical proportions was God's punishment for Port Royal's wicked ways. Perhaps they were right. The town was never the same. Though rebuilt, it was hit by a series of hurricanes and fires that drove many residents to relocate to Kingston, a new settlement that became the island capital. Scientists, however, have another explanation for the cause of the disaster.
The key to the destruction at Port Royal is the fact that it's on this unconsolidated sand. And when you get unconsolidated sand like that and in a major earthquake, the violent shaking suspends every particle of sand with water momentarily. So what is firm foundation ground at one point now is just a liquid. It's just like water.
Whether by liquefaction or God's wrath, the earthquake turned Port Royal into an instant time capsule. Like Pompeii and Herculaneum, Roman cities buried by a volcano in 79 AD, Port Royal was now that rarest of archaeological phenomena, a catastrophic site.
The thing about Port Royal that makes it so special and unique is the fact it's the only sunken city in the New World. There's not another one like it because of its historical importance and the extremely good preservation present at the town. It's the dream of any nautical archaeologist to excavate.
Edwin Link was the first nautical archaeologist to make that dream come true. In 1959, under the auspices of the National Geographic Society and the Smithsonian Institution, he led an expedition to survey the sunken city. Link conducted his work about 100 yards offshore, near a buoy known as the Church Beacon. Legend holds that it marks the site where St. Paul's Church sank in the earthquake. Beneath the buoy, Link recovered a wealth of artifacts, none more intriguing than this pocket watch. An X-ray photograph of the face reveals traces of its vanished hands, stopped at 11:43.
It's probably the first time in the history of archaeology that the actual time of the destruction is actually recorded with frozen hands on a watch dial.
Link's expedition literally put Old Port Royal on the map and changed the minds of skeptics who believed that because of reconsolidation, a natural landfill process, there was little, if anything, left of the sunken city.
Link's greatest contribution was the fact that he proved that there was a sunken city down there and that it had great merit to have somebody have a bigger project.
That somebody was Bob Marks, an underwater archaeologist. He would lead his own expedition 5 years later and recover enough artifacts to rival the plunder of any Port Royal pirate. Edwin Link's 1959 expedition to Port Royal and his recovery of the pocket watch indicating the time of the earthquake intrigued many with the probability of more treasures to be found below. Perhaps no one was more curious than Bob Marks, an underwater archaeologist imbued with the lore of the sunken city.
When I was 5 years old, I read a book about a guy who claimed that he walked the streets of Port Royal. The cathedral bell was chiming. Skeletons were in the taverns with flagons in their hands, drinking the booze. And I read that over and over and over, and I kept saying, one of these days, I'm going to go there and do that.
That day came in 1964, when a development company announced plans to turn Port Royal into a Caribbean version of colonial Williamsburg. That meant dredging for cruise ship piers, right where the sunken city was located. When Marks heard that news, he took action.
I was able to convince the governments, with the help of the Organization of American States and UNESCO, both organizations which I was consultant to in underwater archaeology, to save all the goodies down there. And little did I know at the time that I'd spend the next 4 years around the clock working and only do a tiny part of the site, like 5% of the overall site.
Marks excavated that portion of the site most threatened by the proposed dredging. Working in depths as low as 25 feet, he used an airlift, a long vacuum-like tube, to pump the silt onto a barge, where small artifacts collected on a screen. Marks didn't know what he would find, but he had a dream.
From the very, very beginning, when I first started the excavation here at Port Royal in 1964, I dreamt about, let's find Henry Morgan's grave, because we knew he was buried at Port Royal, or at least his tombstone.
Marks's quest wasn't easy. Sewage from Kingston severely limited underwater visibility. Sharks lurked nearby. Cave-ins and earthquakes threatened.
You're working in a cesspool, but the information that you're getting, you can't get anyplace else. So we put up with it day in, day out. And every morning, I'd wake up so excited to say, okay, what am I going to find today?
Apparently, a lot. Marks may not have found Morgan's grave, but he and his divers seem to have salvaged everything else. They recovered thus far the largest haul of artifacts from the sunken city, in the millions by Marks's own estimate, all of which fit his definition of treasure.
Treasure is anything of importance to mankind that comes out of the sea or from a land site. So treasure doesn't have to be gold and silver. It's something that's interesting for people, and it's something that adds to the knowledge of the past. That's what treasure is.
Some of Marks's most interesting treasures are the oldest ever found in Jamaica.
Soon after I started the excavation, I realized that others had lived there before the pirates settled in Port Royal in 1655, because I began finding Arawak artifacts. Arawaks were the first settlers on the island. They were there at least 1,000.
So you read this book at the age of 5 about pirates, and you grew up your whole life wanting to go to Jamaica and find these treasures, and then as a grown-ass man, you just realized that there were other people in Jamaica before the white man? And that's white privilege. I mean, this whole conversation the whole story they're going through is pretty fucking interesting. But just shit like that, when you catch shit like that, is like, it's fucking weird. Dude just said he went his whole life not knowing that, there were other people there before the pirates. Okay. And no, I don't purposely be trying to like home in on shit like that, but when I hear shit like that, it's like, hey, buddy, what did you just say? Doesn't make any sense, man.
The excavation, I realized that others had lived there before.
Some of Marx's most insight, so Treasure doesn't have.
So this dude is. Wait a minute. Even before all this, he said he communicated and organized this whole shit with UNESCO and all these government agencies because he was like some marine biologist or something. So this motherfucker, that's what I believe I made this same comment just a few days ago about this right here. When white people say that white privilege doesn't exist, a simple observation of education in itself proves white privilege. A white man can go his entire life, his entire educational career, and not really learn about shit like that because the history is told to them in a way where everything is white and we did everything and we were always everywhere. And it's like you can go through, primary, middle school, high school, college, go back for your extra doctorate or PhD and whatever, and still not really know fucking, real history of man, civilization, how shit got started, who was where before, before this whole colonization took place. And that's white privilege, you know what I'm saying? White people you don't have to know, and you can make it just fine. You don't have to know anyone else's history, and you will be fine. But if everybody doesn't know white people history, you're not going to fucking make it. Period. You're not going to make it through school if you don't know their history. But they don't have to know anyone else's history.
Have to be gold and silver. It's something that's interesting for people, and it's something that adds to the knowledge of the past. That's what Treasure is.
And I'm not accusing this man of being racist or anything like that, or I'm not trying to diminish his love for science and discovery and bringing more knowledge and understanding to people. But he just said something that was like, hey, I recognize what that is. That's that white privilege.
Some of Marx's most interesting treasures are the oldest ever found in Jamaica.
Soon after I started the excavation, I realized that others had lived there before the pirates settled in Port Royal in 1655 because I began finding Arawak artifacts. Arawaks were the first settlers on the island. They were there at least 1000 AD, and they were all over the Caribbean in different islands. And some of the first artifacts we found were these religious figurines that you see here, made out of stone, probably of Indian gods. And we found several of those also in wood, very good condition. And the next thing we started to find was a number of ceramic vases and pots like you see here. This particular one here is really great because it's in the shape of an Arawak canoe that was used mainly for fishing and transportation between the islands. And these adzes or axe heads are interesting because these two here are made out of jadeite, and the nearest source of jadeite is Guatemala, which shows that they had trade, all the way to Central America. The two biggest are weapons used to fight, and the smaller one is used as kind of a axe for chopping wood or digging out a canoe or something like that. So really it was great to find all these Indian artifacts on the site.
Most of Marx's finds are fittingly stored in a landmark building, Port Royal's old Naval Hospital. built in 1819 and owned by the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. As the main repository for Marx's artifacts, the hospital has become a latter-day version of the city that sank just beyond its seawall. The grounds are littered with artillery Marx brought up from various shipwrecks, including mortar balls from what is believed to be the Ranger, a vessel that once belonged to pirate Black Bart Roberts, and cannon from what may be the HMS Swan, a British naval vessel that was thrown onto a building by one of the 3 tidal waves that followed the 1692 earthquake. Even the outhouses claim a connection to Port Royal's storied past. The bricks are recycled from the hundreds of thousands Marx reclaimed from the sunken city. Inside the hospital where naval officers once awaited treatment, artifacts await further study. A small selection reveals how life was lived in the pirate town at the time of the Great Quake. This was originally thought to be a cooking baster, but analysis of its contents at the British Museum revealed that it's really a urethra syringe. With it, a mixture of lime and molasses was injected into a man's penis to treat venereal disease.
What?
These lead pieces were used as weights in the fish and meat markets. Their markings, however, indicate an amount more than they actually weigh. Whoever patronized the salesman who used them got cheated. And a crushed pewter chamber pot permanently bears the impact of the earthquake's brutal force. But it's in the Institute of Jamaica, in Kingston, that one finds perhaps Marx's most valuable object.
Every diver dreams of finding a treasure chest, and here I actually found a wooden chest, and inside were 3,000 of the most perfect silver coins, because the same anaerobic conditions that protects all the organic material also protected the silver, and they were the most perfect coins I ever found.
This piece of 8, plundered by pirates from a Spanish galleon, is one of the few left from Marx's excavation. It's kept in a vault because most of the other coins have since disappeared and are presumed stolen, grim proof of their irresistible allure. It also provided the irrefutable proof the Jamaican government required to halt the planned dredging of the harbor. Because of Marx's work, the sunken city would not be disturbed, but rather discovered anew by future underwater explorers. Every underwater expedition to the sunken city at Port Royal has been distinctive. Edwin Link's 1959 exploration was the first and raised tantalizing possibilities for those who followed. The dig conducted by Bob Marks in the 1960s was the largest, yielding the greatest quantity of artifacts. In 1981, the longest and most detailed study of Port Royal began when the Jamaican government invited the Institute of Nautical Archaeology at Texas A&M to excavate. Donnie Hamilton led the expedition.
Originally I said, okay, I will go 1 year and see what the conditions are like. So we went out there, we found that we could conduct controlled excavations, we could take photographs, we could take underwater video, we could find artifacts. So what started to be a 1 year trial excavation turned out to be 10 years of going to Jamaica. From that first year, we saw that there wasn't another site like it, probably in the world, that's comparable to what you find at Port Royal. Anybody who's interested in 17th century English archaeology, that's the site to excavate.
Yo, it's shut down
Unlike
for
Bob
everybody?
Marks, whose site was predetermined by proposed
That's
harbor
weird as
dredging,
shit. And then, you
Hamilton
know what else?
could
Like,
choose where he wanted to.
like right now, I have the motherfucking text the chat, the audio bot set up, and it's not even saying anything. Like it won't even say comments. And I thought it was just me, yo. So I reset the app and I reset the PlayStation. Came back up, started up the stream again, nothing. I said, okay, so fuck it. I shut off, I reset the app and I powered off the PlayStation. Shut the PlayStation completely off, not rest mode or anything. Powered down, let it sit for a minute, powered it back up. Still no fucking comment. Just my shit, but I was gonna I was gonna see that. I was gonna ask later on, because when I get off, y'all know I'm gonna play the game. So as soon as I got online, I was gonna be asking my other motherfuckers like, "Yo, was something wrong with the fucking chat in the streams, yo?" Like, cause my shit is not fucking working, but I can see my chat. I can see all the comments right here. Perfect. But it's crazy. Like, I don't know. So I guess everybody has to read the laptop or read some secondary screen, you know, cause it's yeah. But that's if it is all the streamers, it's probably just Sony. I love and I hate Sony, yo. Like, I don't know. Growing up, I was a Sega guy. You know, we had few options back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, when gaming really took off in the late 80s, early 90s, like when that shit was really, well, it was big before that because arcades were out. Well, you know, the 80s, 90s, we had few options. So I was a Sega guy. Like, Sega was my fucking shit, yo. I love fucking Sega. But damn, you know, Sega and Nintendo started getting more rivals and more competition. I remember that Jaguar system and 3DO and a couple of other consoles, but they were so fucking expensive. Like, I barely knew anybody who had those shits. You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers couldn't afford a lot of that shit. And so Sony, when Sony started coming out with the PlayStations, I left Sega and started going to Sony. I've been with Sony ever since PS1, yo. And I think they have a solid product, but man, ever since online gaming got really big, like the first couple of consoles, them shits weren't online. That's why a lot of people don't even remember, like, the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was the first console with online capabilities, yo. But I had the Dreamcast, but I ain't had internet back then. Like, I wasn't big on the fucking internet. I thought that shit was just like for school and in library, you know what I'm saying, or some shit like that. But damn, yeah. So I've been with Sony for a while, but the past couple years, man, with their fucking online services, there's so many fucking issues with that shit, man. And I don't know, every fucking game. Especially, I play Ghost Recon Wildlands right now. Oh my god, the connection issues in that shit is fucking stupid. And I love the game, and it's just like, come on, Sony. We pay for this. No, I'm paying for this service. And the shit don't even fucking work right. Yo, I'm telling you, that Jaguar was crazy, bro. Yo, nobody couldn't afford that shit, man. One of my homies, I had my homie, man, there was twin brothers, yo. They had the fucking 3DO. Like, man, that shit was like $600-700. You know what I'm saying? That shit was, I don't know, man. But I had most of the Sega shit, yo. I had the Dreamcast. I had the Sega Saturn. I didn't have the Sega CD. That shit was expensive when that one first came out. I think that was their first CD platform. I had the regular Sega Genesis. I had the fucking the Game Gear. That shit was way better than the Game Boy. Like, I don't know. I love all Sega shit, and I like Sonic better than fucking Mario. Like, motherfucker was all on Mario dick, yo, and it's like, Sonic, bitch, Sonic the Hedgehog. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is y'all talking about? Y'all wanna get coins? I'm trying to get these rings, and you know what I'm saying? I'm turning into a super spin ball, and I'm shooting across this shit, man. Fuck them fireballs, man. But I ain't gonna lie, yo, Mario. What was the Mario 3? Or was it not the one with the tail? The one with when he had the cape. When they gave him the cape the first time, you can run, jump in the air, and grab your cape, and be like, boop, doop, Yo, that shit was fun as shit. I love that Mario. Yeah, like I said, man, I had the regular Nintendo. I had the Super Nintendo. I don't think I ever had the Nintendo 64. I never had the GameCube. Uh, and yeah, I had black and white Game Boy. I had Game Boy Color. What other consoles did Nintendo? It was the Nintendo, Super Nintendo. It was something after that. Then it was the 64. I can't even remember. I keep thinking about getting the fucking Switch, just cause it's like handheld. You can just, I don't know. I was thinking about getting that shit. Everybody I know who has the Switch say they really like that shit, yo. My cousin, he got a Switch. A couple other people I play games with got the Switch, yo. And it's like, I don't know. Because I do take trips a little bit. Because I don't live around none of my fucking family. I gotta go to motherfucking Virginia and goddamn South Carolina and shit to go see my people. So sometimes we take road trips, sometimes we be on the plane. Like that shit'll come in handy. Better than a phone or some shit. I just game. Especially like if you gotta ride to Philly or New York or some shit, that shit like 2 hours. Man, 2 hour ride in the car, I'll be playing fucking Zelda. And they say that Zelda game was fucking badass too, yo. Oh shit. I had my brush out of water that whole time. Oh, the 3DS, yo. I forgot about that shit, yo. Yeah, the Nintendo 3DS. I never, out of all the PlayStations, I've had all the consoles, yo. And like you see, I even got the headsets and all that shit, but I never had a PlayStation handheld, yo. I never bought the PSP. I never bought uh the Vita. That's what it was called, the PS Vita, whatever. I never got them shits. Like that shit just, I don't know, for some reason it still reminded me. It's like, nigga, this still the Game Gear. I had this shit when I was 13. It's the Game Gear. Like, bro, it's about the same size. The little screen on that shit is like, I could turn my phone sideways. Like, I don't know. I just never figured it was worth it. Like, it's the fucking Game Gear. But then now the Switch, that shit like tablet size. Then you got the controllers with that shit. You know what I'm saying? You can take the controllers off. That shit. Nintendo on to something with that right there, yo. Now I might, like I said, I might get that shit. This is not alcohol. This is a soft drink. It's just a soft drink, but that's delicious. A ginger beer. Yo, new followers. What's up? PSP. Man, my cousin, this fucker gets everything, bro. And he's a big ass PC player, PC gamer too, yo. So I don't borrow his he had both of them, PSP and the PS Vita. But I done borrowed his PSP for like a couple weeks. Like I say, and that shit, even having one for a while to play with that shit is like, I don't know, it's something that never really made me want to get that shit, yo. I forgot what we was listening to. Oh, the documentary on the sunken city of Jamaica, Port Royal. Damn, no comments on the motherfucking Joan. Now I gotta figure out a way. Let me see, cause this shit do goddamn I can put this bitch in tablet mode. Now, I really can't see it at that angle though. Damn it. And even here it's saying like my chat is getting disconnected. Yo, Trippy, I have the same problem. That's my problem. I can't really. Wait a minute. I'm not go into more detail. Like, you can't create shit. Like, I don't. From your mind, or like just coming up with ideas, or what? Like, I can draw, but like I can't. Like, if I try to imagine a person, a completely made up person, but visualizing a real person's face in my mind, a person I don't know, just kind of features that I think would look nice on a person, I can't like really draw that shit how I see it for some reason, dude. That shit there, I don't know, there is some type of block that I have, and then when I step back and look at it, I'm like, that shit looks nothing like I envision it. And so I always work from photographs. Now I can come up with cool ass ideas and concepts and stuff, like, just, it's simple, but that's my idea. Nobody told me to do that. Nobody said, hey, Trap, what I want you to do is, right, I want you to put the VR headset on, and I want you to be like you really in the game and shit, nigga, and we're gonna have a ball. See, that's all my shit. I created this visual, this effect, you know what I'm saying? So I can do that. But, and I had this image in my mind. I saw it already, you know what I'm saying? I saw this image of me like this, like, oh shit, I'm in VR, but without a picture, could I have drawn it this precisely without a photograph? Hell no. That shit wouldn't have looked right. It would just like me, just like, all right, I can see myself and my arm is this way, and man, nah. So I set my camera up and I do my little pose and I wait for the picture to flash, and then, goddamn it, now I don't have to imagine that shit no more, because I brought that shit out my imagination so I can physically see that shit. If you like art, man, if that's what you into, man, just try shit. You know what I'm saying? I know comic book artists who can draw all kind of manga characters and have fucking all these real emotional, expressions on the manga character's face, and I can't do that shit. And they can do that shit from their mind, like, yeah, but they can't draw like, more realistic people. And it's people have different strengths and different talents and different aspects of visual art that they prefer to focus on than others, and some people are just better at some things than others. Some people like pencils and pastels better than paints, and some people rather use collages and different things like that. I know this one dude, he uses like fabric and shit to make fucking images and things like that. Somebody showed me this one artist, she don't even use a fucking brush. She just like squeezes paint on the canvas and let the gravity pull the paint down, and then she'll turn it this way and squeeze some paint and turn it that way and turn it this way, and she don't never use no brush. And that shit come out looking like a forest and a city and somebody sitting on a park bench. It's like, how the fuck you do that with no brush? But she's good at that shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you give her a brush, she might fuck some shit up. Who knows? You just gotta, I don't know, try everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm working on Barack Obama on the pocketbook for my cousin. But that's a different kind of paint. So for that paint, I'm using this paint. It's acrylic leather, and it's made for painting on leather products. And I started a purse before I did that one, and I just used my regular oil paints, and it fucked up, and so I had to start the whole thing back over. And now it's taking longer because I'm not really, I don't know. These are water-based paints, so they blend a lot different, but I'm getting used to it. I'm gonna take a bathroom break real quick, guys.
To excavate. After consulting period maps of Port Royal, he selected what was once a busy intersection in the commercial center of town. This area was chosen because it's probably the only portion of the sunken city where one finds buildings that sank vertically with minimal distortion. This phenomenon was caused by the liquefaction that occurred during the earthquake. Hamilton's team uncovered 8 buildings ranging from a probable tavern and cobbler shop to private residences. Using a water dredge, a more flexible version of an airlift, Hamilton's team gathered artifacts at depths of less than 15 feet. It was just the first step of many to conserve the past.
Underwater archaeology is very expensive in terms of conservation. While we may spend 3 months working in the summer, it may take 3 to 5 years to conserve all the artifacts we bring up in one excavation season.
Hamilton explains the steps involved in the conservation of metal objects, the kind most susceptible to decay and incrustation.
The biggest problem we have with the artifacts from Port Royal is just the fact that they're all covered with marine growth from being 300 years in the salt water. And so the first process we have to go through is x-raying them to find out exactly what is inside each one of these incrustations or concretions. We take each encrusted object and make an x-ray of it before we start the conservation process, and then the x-ray shows the interior detail. On this x-ray you can see the trigger of a gun. Here's the side plate of the gun, the spring inside behind the side plate, and then part of the hammer which held the gun flint. And the x-ray shows us clearly the degree of preservation, and it determines the next process as we go. As soon as we evaluate the...
I don't know, man. I had a really, really good art teacher in middle school. And then I went to like a semi-private high school. And when I got to high school, she actually transferred to the high school I went to. And so she was my art teacher through high school too. But I wind up dropping out of high school, but never went to college or none of that shit. So like... My basic understanding of art and different mediums really came like early on when I was like, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, when I had the same art teacher for like 5 years. And so she really did teach me a lot about painting. But I say after I got out of school, I ain't never really worried about that shit, man. I wasn't trying to be creative. Like I said, I dropped out and selling drugs and shit and trying to be a rapper and shit. Obviously, that didn't work out. But I don't know. Just one day, like I just got bored and started fucking painting again, and I just tried to paint some shit, and I actually remembered that I like to draw and I like doing shit like this. And so I don't know, once I started doing that shit, man, I haven't stopped. And I was painting for about like 3 or 4 years, and then I went to a gallery and tried to get some of my art in this gallery, and wound up running into this other professional artist and talking to him, and he was like, "Oh, well, show me some of your stuff." And he said he gave classes and suggested that I, take some of his classes. And he told me, like, well, you already taught yourself how to paint, so I can't teach you how to paint, but I can teach you a different way to paint. And so I studied underneath a professional artist for about 2 years. He really showed me a lot of different techniques, and that's the reason I tone my canvas now. The way that I paint is the way that he showed me. Draw your image, outline your image, tone your canvas, do an underpainting. You know what I'm saying? Before that, I never did any of that shit. I'll just get some shit on the canvas and I'll go right to painting that shit, you know what I'm saying? And over the years, I was gradually starting to see what I was doing wrong, because like a few of my paintings right before I met him, I was really getting frustrated with, because I was working on colors for a while and really trying to focus on making my colors more vibrant, and I could not figure out, and it just seemed like it took me forever and ever of trying to apply paint and not getting the fucking results that I wanted. And that's because I was always painting directly onto a white canvas, you know what I'm saying, and not toning it. And like my first 10 paintings, I actually thought I can do that shit in just like one layer of paint, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it dries and I'll come back and try to touch it up here and there, and it's like, and it looked like it was just one layer of paint, you know? But he told me about, underpaintings and doing multiple layers, even if it takes you 3, 4 layers, 5 layers sometimes. Just don't rush it, and don't think you're gonna get finished in a day or two, and take your time. And so I don't know, I really enjoy painting. I do this shit every day. I wish I did this shit for a living. That's the ultimate goal that I'm pushing towards, is figuring out a way to do this shit for a living. Colorblind people, man, stick with the just stick with the black and white, bruh. You can never go wrong. 50 Shades of Grey. You ain't colorblind for real, is it? But I don't know, I seen this one Facebook video. They have these. Boy, it sounded like my easel was about to fall. I just put my foot on that shit, heard that shit click. It just locked into place. I guess it wasn't locked all the way before, but yeah, there is this Facebook video, and they have these glasses that help with certain types of color blindness. And so, a father for Father's Day or some kind of gift, the whole family comes around and gives him this present, and he opens it, and it's, weird pair of looking glasses. He puts them on, he just starts crying. He's like, what the fuck? Look, it's red, it's green, oh my God. And I don't know, that shit was emotional as shit, like being able to actually see colors. Like, I don't know what the fuck I would do if, I'm not even gonna say it. Yeah. But yeah, that's crazy. I don't know, for a long time I was scared to work with colors. Like, when I was a kid, man, most of my shit was just black and white drawings. And every time I got with color pencils or some shit, I felt like I was fucking that shit up, and I couldn't shade with color the right way. And that's why I think I like oils, because shading with oils is fucking easy as shit, yo. That shit is so easy. People think that shit hard, man, but because oils, they just like, it's like butter, and it's just like mixing butter and cream with each other, and they just blend so smoothly and seamlessly. Like, I love that shit, yo. Those fucking acrylic paints, man, them shits dry up so fucking fast, you ain't got time to do shit. You be like, all right, a little bit of brown.
Trigger of a gun. Here's the side plate of...
Bro, that shit scared the fuck out of me because I did not mean to press play just now. I'm a trigger of a gun. I'm like, oh, who got what? Oh, shit. I thought the cops was in here. Whew, thought I was about to die. What that dude they just killed, man, the other day? Shot that motherfucker 20 times. How you gotta shoot somebody 20 times? What? Why? And then the cop says, cover me. I'm about to reload. Bitch, reload for what? Oh, because you spent your entire magazine. And then they handcuff him. Because you know, black men are extra dangerous when they're dead. You know, man, oh man, when you kill a black man, you better hurry up and handcuff him. Because you know how them dead black men don't never want to act right. I don't know how I started getting on that little rant. What I was saying? Oh, trigger of a gun. That's what the dude said. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm done with this little bit of history for right now. They shot him 20 times in his own yard. He got a gun. It was a cell phone, bitch. It was a phone. Cover me. I'm reloading. What the fuck did this say? You gotta reload? Whew, boy. PUBG. I'm telling you, I'm about to go download that shit.
It's bad enough when you lose your car keys or your cell phone, but when you lose an invention that could change the course of human history, that kind of smarts. There are many weird and wonderful inventions which mankind has misplaced, repressed, or for some reason ignored, such as a Greek drug which cured depression, a concrete so strong it helps buildings last over 2 millennia, and a technology which could be the force behind all those strange floating objects in the sky. No, not the clouds, UFOs. So, without further ado, let's take a look at our list of the top 7 lost inventions and technologies. Number 7. Nikola Tesla's earthquake machine. If you lived nearby to Nikola Tesla's laboratory, you'd be kept up at night more often than if you drank a whole bucket of Viagra Espresso just before bed. His neighbors reportedly complained to police about noise and vibrations which shook the very foundations of their homes. And on one particularly violent occasion, Tesla was forced to smash his own invention with a sledgehammer before it reduced his laboratory and the nearby area to rubble. And that invention was the earthquake machine. His machine was blamed for an earthquake which hit New York in 1898, and it worked by forcing steam through an oscillator in order to power pistons attached to an armature. Modern-day scientists have tested Tesla's design and found that while it did work, it didn't produce the devastating effects Tesla reported. Which begs the question, was there a more powerful design which is yet to be uncovered? And if so, did Tesla destroy it for fear of the damage it could wreak? At 6, the perfect violin. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the Italian Stradivari family created the finest violins, violas, and cellos the world has ever seen. And sadly, they're the best we're likely to ever see for some time. Nobody has ever been able to accurately reproduce the stunning sound quality of a Stradivarius, because thanks to global temperatures at the time, the wood's density and treatment procedures are completely unique. There is also the problem that the Stradivari family, particularly Antonio Stradivari, were master craftsmen who understood how to create string instruments better than anyone before or since. The secrets of the perfect violin have been lost to the Stradivari family plot, and with only 600 genuine Stradivarius violins left. 5. The key to free energy.
That was Nikola Tesla.
Victor Schauberger was an Austrian inventor, most famous for being the subject of conspiracy theories regarding his purported creation of a perpetual motion machine. Now, obviously, if we believed every online conspiracy theory, that guy from Kenan and Kel would have died like 9 times already. So, what are the facts behind this myth? Victor Schauberger never claimed to have invented a perpetual motion machine. But he was a genuinely brilliant inventor whose revolutionary designs were inspired by nature. Victor saw flaws in man-made components such as propellers and engines, and then looked to nature for ways to improve them. During World War II, Schauberger was tasked with advising the Nazi government on new propulsion methods, including his famous vortex technology, and reportedly had many direct meetings with Hitler and Himmler. It was during this time he claimed to have created the most efficient source of power known to man by drawing on Earth's energy. But as the war turned sour for the Germans, Schauberger was captured by the U.S. intelligence and brutally interrogated. The rampaging Russian army destroyed many of Schauberger's notes, and the U.S. government took the rest. On his deathbed, Schauberger remarked, "They took everything from me. Everything. I don't even own myself." Number 4. Antiquity's answer to depression. We know that the ancient Greeks were a pretty advanced society by anyone's standards, except for that whole icky philosophy on mentoring. That was kind of gross. And aside from all their philosophical and technological advancements, the Greeks also had a solid understanding of medicine, particularly how to treat depression. According to Greek literature, bereaved families were often given a drug called Nepenthe, which was known for its ability to chase away sorrow. And while some believe this drug was fictional, there is evidence to show that it genuinely did exist. In ancient Greek mythology, Nepenthe was taken from Egypt, and its side effects of forgetfulness sound somewhat similar to opium. But if this drug was unique, then where is it today? Did they use it all up to forget their troubles? After a day of ancient Greek Big Brother Day, I'm sure you would too. In at 3, the most delicious ketchup you'll never taste. Garum was a condiment made by the Romans using liquefied and fermented fish guts, which were macerated in salt and left in the sun for 3 months. The clear liquid which formed on the top was strained off and mixed with an unknown variety of herbs, and this mixture was so popular, the Romans built factories dedicated to pumping out this weird fish gut ketchup. It reportedly tastes so delicious, everyone from emperors to peasants would douse their food with it. And scientists believe it would have probably been a meatier, more umami-driven version of Thai fish sauce. Unfortunately, modern recreations of the recipe are downright disgusting, mostly because they're based on guesswork and involve a different kind of fish, due to the Romans wiping the original species off the planet thanks to their greedy fish gut lust. Roman garum was also apparently very good for the body and often used as a medicine, so it was an ancient version of Buckley's. And we've traded fish guts for spruce snot. How far we've come. At 2, Roman concrete. The Colosseum, the Cloaca Maxima, the Pantheon, the Bon Jugar. What do they all have in common? Yes, they all look like places you'd parkour the crap out of on Assassin's Creed. What they have in common is they were all built by the Romans. What do they all have in common?
Video game. He dropped the video game in there.
At 2, Roman concrete. The Colosseum, the Cloaca Maxima, the Pantheon, the Bon Jugar. What do they all have in common? Yes, they all look like places you'd parkour the crap out of on Assassin's Creed. What they have in common is they were all built by the Romans, each one remaining standing as strong as ever today. This, all thanks to Roman concrete. Allegedly, the original ancient recipe has never been made public, as it was deemed a trade secret, which no stonemason should ever reveal. The Romans reportedly added many different things to their concrete mix, including burnt lime, milk, and human blood. But nobody knows the exact ratio of cow and people juice to properly formulate the super strong substance, or if there were other materials used in the process. Modern buildings made using inferior Portland concrete are showing signs of wear much earlier than the Roman ones ever did. So it seems likely that in a few hundred years' time, when all our buildings have turned to dust, the constructs of the Roman Empire will remain standing tall, as they have done for 2 millennia. And at number 1, the secret UFO technology. Many believe that whenever a strange metallic object is seen floating in the sky, there's only one place it could have come from: outer space. But if you believe the claims of Thomas Townsend Brown, the origin of those mysterious objects may actually be a little closer to home. Townsend Brown believed that he had discovered a way of manipulating gravity using electricity, and he developed a device called a gravitator, which he said would help propel the ocean liners of the future and send fantastic space cars to Mars. Townsend Brown demonstrated this technology to military officials on several occasions, yet whenever he handed over working prototypes to interested parties, he never heard back from them. And nor did he receive his prototypes back. Some believe that this technology could be what powers some of the unidentified flying objects seen in our skies over the past few decades. So if true, is humanity being shielded from anti-gravity technology? Could real hoverboards be on the horizon instead of those lame-ass self-igniting skateboards? Or will we be forever deprived of anti-gravity technology for the simple reason that we'd probably kill ourselves within 5 minutes of trying it out? Did you enjoy our list of ancient inventions which humanity has lost between the sofa cushions? If so, take a look at our last video on the greatest historical mysteries for more old-timey secret shenanigans.
Old-timey secret shenanigans. Ew. Goo. I hate when my instruments get caked up with goo. James Webb Space Technology. Ancient technology so advanced we still don't understand it. Sounds interesting. The ocean is scary as fuck. 10 realities of life on Mars. Try this. PUBG, I'm coming to download you today, don't worry.
Real-life Hank Scorpio, Elon Musk, says we'll have 1 million people living on Mars by the 2060s. If he can steal enough underpants, of course. But what will life be like when humans go about their daily business on Mars? We know it'll be cold, probably a little dusty. But did you know you'll get a fat neck, permanent beer goggles, and you'll need to work out every day? Doesn't sound so fancy now, does it? Let's find out why in our list of the 10 realities of life on Mars. Number 10, we'll be mole people. Since Mars has neither an atmosphere nor a global magnetic field, those living on the surface will need something to protect them from space radiation caused by solar activity and galactic cosmic rays. Right now, NASA is working on force fields and radiation-blocking materials to this end. But a solution posed by some scientists is that we may instead live underground. 5 meters of soil provides the same level of protection as Earth's atmosphere. So it's likely we'll use existing cave systems as the base for our first Martian habitats. Hooray, we're back to being cavemen. Unfortunately, the levels of radiation present, combined with our current technology...
Let's see here.
Existing cave systems as the scientists by solar activity. Since Mars has neither an atmosphere nor a global magnetic field, those living on the surface will need something to protect them from space radiation caused by solar activity and galactic cosmic rays. Right now, NASA is working on force fields and radiation-blocking materials to this end. But a solution posed by some scientists is that we may instead live underground. 5 meters of soil provides the same level of protection as Earth's atmosphere.
And they honestly believe that what it is
The mastodons, I understand, are 3 times the size of an elephant, and they were flash frozen. And to flash freeze, a pole shift would not do that. You've heard of those where the Greys were abducting women and creating a sort of self-sacrifice. I believe that's why it was permitted. The locations and addresses of these people. What the Greys said, these particular type of Greys.
Can't find that other video.
Sphere. So it's likely we'll use existing cave systems as the base for our first Martian habitats. Hooray, we're back to being cavemen. Yeah, unfortunately, the levels of radiation present, combined with our current technological limitations, means it'll be some time before any Martian colony will have windows. And that leaves us with the terrifying possibility that we'll have to find somewhere else to leave our pies to cool.
What?
Number 9, you'll print your food. 2 years ago, NASA invested several $100,000 into a project to design 3D food printers which function in space and offered up an edible pizza as proof that it works. This kind of technology will prove crucial in the early years of Martian colonization. As with supply ships initially scheduled once a year at most, these cargo drops will only contain the basic elements needed to keep the colonists alive. Growing food Matt Damon style was once thought too difficult due to the presence of toxic elements in Martian soil. But in June 2016, scientists did manage to grow edible, non-toxic tomatoes, peas, and cereals in simulated Martian dirt. However, vegetables take both time and water to grow. And since we're still not sure if this experiment could be replicated with genuine Martian soil, it's going to be printed beef and spaceman ice cream for a good while yet. Number 8, no Skyping. If one of your relatives is living on Mars, you'll have yet another excuse not to call them at Christmas, because communications between the 2 planets are delayed by between 4 and 24 minutes, depending on where Mars is in its orbit. This could mean something of a renaissance for the ancient technique known as the email, because every live conversation will be like one of those news broadcasts from a foreign country where the anchor keeps interrupting the reporter, as nobody knows when it's their turn to speak. And if you're wondering why we can't just stick a big butt Wi-Fi hotspot in the middle of space, then I like your thinking, pal. But that just won't work. Because no matter how much technology progresses, you can't make radio waves move any faster, even if you give them a rolling start by pushing them down Olympus Mons. Who needs a phone call home when you've got an amazing view of a glorious butterscotch sky? Number 7, blue sunsets. Just before the sun rises on a crisp, Martian morning, you'll enjoy blue skies similar to what we experience on Earth. But as the sun drags its butt out of bed, the hue of the heavens will switch to a pinkish red, much like the color of a lightly slapped buttock. Throughout most of the Martian day, the skies then turn to a yellowish-brown butterscotch color, before returning to a brief period of cobalt blue, and then back to spanked hiney pink as the sun hits the hay. Occasionally, you'll see violet skies too, and since the only clouds are thin wispy ones, you'll also enjoy a picturesque view of the cosmos and both Martian moons, which often pop out at the same time like a couple of cold nipples in a snowstorm.
What the fuck?
Number 6. New calendars. A Martian day lasts 40 minutes longer than an Earth day, but due to its distance from the sun, it takes Mars almost twice as long to orbit the sun, and a Martian year subsequently lasts 686 days. Therefore, if you live in the northern hemisphere, you'll enjoy 7 months of spring, a 6-month summer, 5 months of fall, and 4 months of winter. And due to Mars' elliptical orbit, those in the southern hemisphere will experience far harsher summers and winters too. So does this mean we need to invent a summer Martian Christmas to fill the gap? Because I can't go 686 days without presents, turkey, and passive-aggressive arguments with my relatives. Number 5, it might be one way. According to Mars One's Buzz Lansdorp, the technology required to get humans to Mars and keep them alive there definitely exists, but the technology to get them home does not. Nevertheless, thousands of gullible morons have applied for his reality show suicide mission, and of the 100 candidates remaining, only 4 of them will get to make this proposed one-way trip to Mars, which he's definitely not made up for a TV prank. But good guy, Elon Musk, says a return trip might be possible using synthesized Martian methane as a propellant. Now, I always knew there were great possibilities to be found in Mars parts. However, these trips have to be scheduled for when the orbits of Earth and Mars bring them closest together. So if you get homesick as soon as you arrive there, tough luck. You'll be stuck there for at least 27 months and maybe more, if Galactic Emperor Musk decides to keep you his space prisoner. Number 4, daily exercise. Astronauts on the International Space Station must exercise for 2 hours a day to mitigate the effects of zero gravity on their muscles. And while Mars isn't totally devoid of magic pulley-downy power, it does only possess a third of Earth's gravity. So you'll still need to work up a sweat on a daily basis to stop yourself turning into a pathetic weakling. And no, leaping over large distances in 1/3 gravity does not count as a full-body workout. But hey, at least your bathroom scales will tell you you're only a third as fat as you thought you were. Number 3, you're boned. I like my bones just the way they are, but Martian colonists are going to have to put up with a few more breakages than normal thanks to the effects of low gravity. Even with regular exercise, your bones will grow weaker while living on the red planet. And if there's one thing sure to ruin your trip to a new world, it's a shattered pelvis from trying to make too many new Martians too soon. Now, well, at least you won't have to be too picky about who you sleep with on Mars because... Number 2, permanent beer goggles. When astronaut John Phillips traveled to the ISS, he had perfect 20/20 vision. And when he returned, this degraded to 2100 vision, which is only one step away from being legally blind. NASA still doesn't know exactly why this happens, but since there were notoriously few opticians on Mars, it may be a good idea to pack some contact lenses for the trip just in case. Because I don't think Martians are that big on Braille. But what they are big on is big, fat, chunky necks. And number 1, goiter. I hope you packed enough scarves and neckerchiefs for everyone, Elon Musk, because thanks to the presence of toxins in the Martian soil, there's a risk everyone could end up looking like this. Now, we're not talking about those made-up toxins your aunt thinks she can cleanse herself of by eating nothing but prune juice and taking a large dump. No, we're talking about high concentrations of perchlorates, which are toxic salts that can cause huge amounts of damage to the human thyroid glands. Even if we can rid Martian crops of these salts, just touching the soil on a regular basis is a bad idea, as too much exposure could cause hyperthyroidism, which leads to goiter, skin rashes, nausea, and vomiting. So basically, what we're saying is, don't eat a handful of soil the minute you get there. Just stick to that powdered spaceman ice cream, and you'll be fine. And that's our list. Are you still hungry for a trip to Mars? Or would you rather just head to Amazon and buy some spaceman ice cream? I've tried it. Tastes like ass. Just trust me on this. Instead, why don't you just check out our recent video on the weirdest plans for the future? Because if you think a trip to Mars is interesting, just wait until you see what else we've got in store for you.
Dang, bitch. I'll put a degree sign here. Or exclamation point. Or should I put my... I should put my logo on that bitch. Pencil. Where the fuck is the pencil? I'm gonna think about it. I was looking to put something right after the word, but then I don't know, because the more I think about it now, I kind of centered the word in the canvas, in the center of the canvas, and so if I put something here, it'll make it off centered. So I don't know, if I would decide to do something, it probably would just be like, I don't know. Oh, shit. I feel like it's time for a nap. I feel like I can take a nap. How long I've been in here? You know what? Without the counter up, I can't really tell. Let me see. Well, this is the third time that I started the stream. I think I've been here since like 11:30, 12 o'clock or some shit like that. What time is it now? It's 2:20. I might be ready for a break. I'm definitely going to get this canvas tone today. Get a nice good tone on it. Probably start an underpainting tomorrow. Yeah, pretty cool, right? This shit gonna be cool? What y'all think? I was thinking about putting like something here, man. Should I put VR? Like, dang, VR. You ever play VR? You ever play VR on Wii? I really don't know what to put there. And so, alright, so this stream has been up for almost 2 hours. Well, guys, so So I did a good bit today. I actually worked on this purse for a couple hours off stream. Worked on the purse, got the sketch done. I did all that shit off camera. So, I don't know. Got some shit accomplished for today. Like I said, I had to deal with my landlord earlier this morning. But, so I do have a new set of pictures that I took. Finally, some more of my own photographs. I have been working with several photographers and different models for a while. But I do like to take my own photographs. I have 2 really decent cameras, and so the next few paintings I work on are probably going to be my own photographs, and they're going to be self-portraits. So you're going to see me paint myself a lot for a couple months, but it's all good. Everybody's used to that shit, right? Right, we're all used to it by now. Shit, if you look like me, you'll paint yourself a lot too. I really need to wash this brush. Alright guys, I'm just trying to make sure I get everything all cleaned up. That's off. This. Oh, you know what? I might come back in here later on today. I'll probably be back in here later on because I need to get this finished. I say I'm really down to the jewelry and some of the background. I think I finished his pants off camera as well, so I feel comfortable with the blue jeans. But there's a leaf here and a leaf here that needs some highlights on it. And I want to add a little bit more yellow to the background. And the jewelry they're wearing is a little bit more shiny, so a few more highlights on there, and this piece will be done. I worked on this shit for a minute, but it looks nice. Once again, I just took my time, didn't try to rush it, and I'm satisfied with the way it's turning out. I think it's going to be a really good piece when it's done. Y'all think I'm playing, man? I might go take a nap, yo. But yeah, try to finish this one up. Finish this piece up. Up. Am I standing in front of it? There it goes. Get that piece started. And like I said, I have a few more pieces. I have several paintings. So here are 3 paintings right here. I have 1, 2, 3 different paintings that I started, but I think I'm gonna just pause on those for a while. I might come back to them. 2 of them are photographs that I didn't take. One of them is a photograph that I did actually take, but I don't know, I just kind of lost interest in those pieces. Not lost interest in them, but I'm more excited about some newer ideas that I've been coming up with. So I'm gonna just work on these right here. Appreciate everybody checking me out, man, chilling with me for a little while, and watching the progress on these paintings. So I got that one that's drying right now. As soon as that that black outline is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and tone that one, and we're gonna start underpainting on that piece probably later today. If I can work on this painting on an easel and work on that a little bit today, I will have accomplished a lot. And probably one day this weekend, I got like 4 paintings that need to be varnished, so I'm gonna have to take some of those in the basement and get a good varnish on them and seal them up, because they've been dry for a while now. But and I got a couple of new followers. Yo, peace, and for all the love and everything for that. Thank you guys for following the channel, and all the new subscribers. New subscribers and new viewers. If you do like the art, follow some of my social media links, and that way you can see my entire catalog of art. I gotta start putting watercolors on my putting a watermark on my photographs that I post online, because motherfuckers are actually starting to steal my shit. Yeah, like I never thought I'd get to that point where motherfuckers are steal my art and try to use that shit for other shit. But it's like, yeah, I guess my shit is that popular now, and people aren't trying to give me credit for it. So if you are artists, make sure you start doing that, because I've been reluctant to do that for a while, and this is like the 3rd time that somebody's taken one of my paintings off my site and just use it like it's their own shit without giving me credit. So I definitely got to be more diligent about that. But with all that being said, guys, I'm about to go eat, play some video games, probably take a nap, and I'll be back in here later on this evening. Yo, peace. Until next time.